Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark, the Mad Movie Mark movie review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1984 action extravaganza, The Terminator.
Come with me if you want to live.
Hey, well, I'm ready to go whenever you are. I'm ready to go on this ride. Finally, an action movie that's 100% fresh, and it's pure action. It's not like a swashbuckler. It's just a pure going 100 miles an hour the whole movie action movie. So I'm reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started in the 1920 silent movie era. Now I'm at 1984 with The Terminator. This movie has a 100% fresh rating from the critics and an 89% fresh rating from the audience. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator, Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, and Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese. Now, this movie, The Terminator, comes from the future, and the future is set in 2029. We're almost there, so if we're going to get Terminators, we got to start getting them soon because we're leapfrogging into 2024 here. So like I said, this is really one of the only pure, fast, on the edge of your seats, constant action movie that I've reviewed for this 100% fresh rating list, and I'm very happy that's on this list. I'm actually also saddened that Terminator 2 is not on this list, because Terminator 2 is my favorite action movie of all time. I think it is flawless, it is fantastic, and no one can ever change my mind about that. So don't try. To me, it's the perfect action movie ever made. It made all these people stars. I mean, Linda Hamilton is kind of a god-like figure in action movies. She is like, I guess if you would ask my wife, like who's the patriarch, the big person in horror movies, she's like the Jamie Lee Curtis of action movies. At least for me, she is. She is very up there, high on the pedestal. This movie, of course, made Arnold Schwarzenegger's career. He was just doing Mr. Universe contest before this came up. I think this is like it is his first role, and made him a huge action star. It laid the foundation for his career. And then Michael Biehn, he's doing something also. So this movie really laid the foundation for Terminator 2, which I said is my favorite action movie of all time. Now, there are flaws with Terminator. The acting in it, even though Sarah Connor, Linda Hamilton, played by Linda Hamilton, who plays Sarah Connor, she will eventually become a fantastic actress. Arnold Schwarzenegger also becomes pretty adept actor as well. They're kind of flat in this movie. They're not that great. I would say Michael Bihn's also not that great in this movie. I think this movie is, I believe it's famous for its acting not being great. But we can let that slide because the action is just constant. The whole movie. The movie's an hour and 45 minutes. To me, it feels like it's 20 minutes long because of how fast it is. But the pacing is great. Like, it needs this fast of a pace in the movie because it's driven that way. There's a sense of urgency in this movie on two different sides. So there's a sense of urgency for the Terminator to kill Sarah Connor, to prevent her from having her child later on, John Connor, and there's also a urgency from Sarah Connor and from Kyle Reese to save Sarah Connor so that she can have her child and so that he can eventually save the world. So there's two things that are urgent that are butting heads through the entire movie, and that relies on the movie being at a specific pace. It relies the movie being set at a certain tone, and the movie just knocks it out of the park the whole way through. The movie knocks everything out of the park except for the acting, which is just unfortunate, but everything else is absolutely spectacular. There's like 2 or 3 car chases in this movie, and they're all absolutely amazing. So before I go too much into this, everyone knows the basic plot of this movie, right? So in the very beginning, the Terminator is kind of ported into the city, and his goal, his mission, he is driven by this goal. He cannot be stopped. He cannot be bargained with, cannot be bribed. None of this could happen. His goal is to kill Sarah Connor. Now, in the beginning of the movie, he doesn't know which Sarah Connor he needs to kill because he just has a name. They don't have like a face. They don't have really an address or anything. He has a name, Sarah Connor. So he goes to the phone book and he just starts killing Sarah Connors in order. So the first Sarah Connor he kills is just a girl who's, I think it's her children or her grandchildren who are out playing in their yard. He knocks on the door. She opens the door. He says, "Are you Sarah Connor?" She says yes, and then he kills her. Now, the Sarah Connor that we care about, the one who is being played by Linda Hamilton, her coworker, she works at like a diner, and her coworker says, "Hey, look, you're really going to love this. Sit down and watch the news for a second." And the news is broadcasting that a girl named Sarah Connor has been killed. Sarah shares the same name as her, and her coworker's like, "I thought this was so unique and so interesting that you would think this is great." Of course, Sarah Connor does not think this is great. She just thinks that it's terrible that someone named Sarah Connor died.
So incredible. You're not going to believe it. Sit down. You are going to love this.
What? Has been compiled from several witnesses. Once again, Sarah Connor, 35, mother of two, brutally shot to death in her home this afternoon.
You're dead, honey.
In other late-breaking news, Teamster representatives have issued a statement.
So she goes on with her life, and then a second Sarah Connor is killed. The police get wind of this. The police realize that now there's a bit of a pattern going on here, and that the people in this town, in the city, are likely going to be worried about it. So their idea is to try to get in contact with the Sarah Connor third on the phone book, because they make the connection that he's basically killing through the phone book. Now, she ends up contacting them because she gets worried, and, she's at a bar, and the police officer just says, "Stay there. You're in a place that has a lot of people. He's not going to come attack you when there's a lot of people there, so just stay where you are." Now, when the Terminator was ported into the city, thus so was Kyle Reese, who is also from the future. Now, there's something that happened to this portal system that was destroyed after they were both ported in. So neither the Terminator nor Kyle Reese can leave. Now, they have to stay there, and they have to try to kill each other. They can't go back in time to where they were. So Kyle Reese is there to try to save Sarah Connor, but we don't know that at first. At first, he's like a shady type of character who's just kind of walking in the shadows. You don't know if he's working with the Terminator because they were both came into the city at the same time. There's a lot of tension here, especially when you first see it. It's a very tense moment. The whole movie just builds tension. It's very good at building tension, and it's just so amazing how it does this. So now the police thought that if this is any normal criminal, of course he's not going to attack you in a bar because there's a lot of people around. But the Terminator will do it because he doesn't have to worry about being killed. He's a cyborg. He's like a cyber organism.
Human. Sweat, bad breath, everything. Very hard to spot. I had to wait till he moved on you before I could zero him.
Look, I am not stupid, They cannot make things like that yet.
Not yet. Not for about 40 years.
Reese explains this later on in the movie, that he's blood and tissue on the outside, but on the inside he's all cyber organisms, and it's a lot harder for people. It's a lot harder for people of this time era to recognize who is a Terminator and who is not, because they look like normal people. So Reese has to wait until the Terminator tries to kill Sarah before he can intervene, so he's following Sarah as well. So in this bar, the Terminator tries to kill Sarah Connor. Reese intervenes and kind of takes out the Terminator for a bit. The Terminator is a bit like Michael Myers from Halloween, except there's actually a reason to believe the Terminator can't be stopped, whereas Michael Myers, he's like a normal human being who somehow, over the course of time, develops supernatural powers of some sort. But the Terminator, so he's stopped for now. Kyle Reese takes hold of Sarah Connor, explains to her what's going on, why he's with her, and who he is, who she is, and basically explains the whole thing. You're going to have a son in the future who is going to help us in fighting these Terminators. And they don't want your son to exist, so they're coming back to destroy you before you have your son. I'm coming here to save you before you have your son, so that you can still have your son. She doesn't believe any of this, of course, because she's not a fighter. She works in like a diner. She really is not, at this point, not all that courageous. You know, she doesn't really have any spunk in her right now. She's just like a normal person, like you would normally be in this type of situation. But as they're getting away, the cops catch them. When the cops catch them, they have a sort of a psychiatrist take a look at Kyle Reese. The psychiatrist says he's a lunatic, basically, and that he could spend his whole career just on Kyle Reese himself, developing books and, you know, developing different scientific journal things just on Kyle Reese because of how crazy he is, which is also like Halloween. Because isn't there like a detective in Halloween who basically decides that it's his life's ambition and life's goal to Michael Myers, to like study Michael Myers and to try to help people from Michael Myers. I don't know. There's some similarities there, I think. That's what I was thinking when I was watching this. Hey, he's a lot like that Loomis guy from Halloween, where he wants to dedicate his whole life to one crazy patient type of thing. Now, Sarah Connors doesn't absolutely agree that he's crazy, but they're starting to make her think that maybe he is. The Terminator comes into the police office and just waylays on everyone and just like destroys everything, kills all the cops. He doesn't kill the psychologist because he kind of leaves as the Terminator is coming into the police precinct. And as the Terminator is coming into the police precinct, he gets that famous, the more than famous, everyone knows the "I'll be back." I can't do a Terminator impersonation, especially not when I'm sick, but he does the "I'll be back" thing, and then he comes back with a vengeance, essentially.
Where is she?
Look, it may take a while. If you want to wait, there's a bench over there.
I'll be back.
And he comes back and he kills everyone, except for Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor, who eventually get away. Now, later in the movie, as the movie's going on, Kyle Reese and Sarah, they start developing this relationship, and you realize, I mean, they hand it to you on a silver platter, but you realize that Kyle Reese is going to be the father of John Connor, because Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese have this one night stand type of thing, and she gets pregnant. At the end of the movie, we learn that she's pregnant and that he is going to be the father. So it's this weird Back to the Future time thing where all these things have to come together, or it doesn't really work. So eventually, by the end of the movie, the Terminator. And I don't think that I'm spoiling anything, but if you haven't seen The Terminator yet, you should go see it, because I'm about to tell you how it ends. So eventually, the Terminator gets blown up in this, like, I think it's like a gas or oil truck that he's driving. Kyle Reese puts, like, an explosive in it. It blows up. All of his skin melts off. You don't see this, but all of his skin melts off, and he's just a cyborg at the end of the movie. The graphics in today's... if we were looking at the graphics today, we would say that they look a bit rough, but back then they were state-of-the-art graphics. Like, these were, I mean, they had shows at Universal Studios that were like highlighting how great these graphics were at those times. I remember there was a specific show at Universal Studios. It was like a 3D show, I think, that you were supposed to marvel at the graphics and how good they were at this time of the. So apparently they were fantastic in 1984, and I believe it. This is like The Thief of Baghdad, which was the first movie that used the blue screen that I reviewed before, where people were in awe over the graphics, where you watch movies from that time period and nothing even came close to what Thief of Baghdad was doing. This is kind of like what I've seen with Terminator, where I've seen movies from the 1980s for this list that I'm doing. Now, none of them have been action movies, but also none of them have come close to even trying to generate the graphics of the cyborg that they're using in this movie. So the cyborg comes out. He eventually, he gets killed, but also Reese gets killed as well. So we are just left at the end of the movie with Sarah Connors, who is talking to her unborn child about how he is going to save the world one day. Now, Sarah Connors has, by Terminator 2, you obviously see that she's grown a lot as a character and that she has this nice character arc. And I think you definitely see that towards the end of the movie, that her character arc is definitely starting to come together, and she's becoming this like badass character that she will be in Terminator 2. And this movie kind of, it'll foretell a little bit what's going on in Terminator 2, but but that's the whole movie. It's a lot of action. It's a lot of in your face, like high energy, high octane, just crazy action, which I love. I love this movie, even though I don't review a lot of movies like this, because I'm just reviewing all the movies that have 100% fresh rating right now, and none of them are like this, which is, to me, for a movie that has pure action like this, that stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, who a lot of people, I think of as a joke as an actor, because they see movies like Jingle All the Way, and they see like The Last Action Hero, these movies that are really bad, and they think that he is a joke of an actor. Well, he had these two movies that were just fantastic. Like, even the worst actors in the world have at least one movie, right? At least one movie that is just great, and you can really be remembered for how great you were in this movie. And that's Terminator and Terminator 2 for Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is just so good. And when he's not on screen, it's one of those villains where he's not on screen, you're wondering where he is, when he's going to fly into the screen, because at any moment he could just like be on a motorcycle and just fly into the screen and just start destroying things at a second. And you're just waiting, like bated breath. It's an hour and a half, but it seems like it's 20 minutes because you're just waiting for him to just come on screen and to just start destroying everything. And it's so tense, and there's so much tension that builds up, and it's just so good. And there's just to me, at least in today's day, there's so few movies that do this. You have like the new horror movies that are just like, they're jump scares and they're grotesque, and they just don't make it seems like to me they don't make action movies like this anymore. This movie is like a perfect action movie. And I think the fact that it has 100% fresh rating, and there's no other movie like that from the 80s, from the 70s, from the 80s. There's no other movie like this genre that has 100% fresh rating. It just tells you how fantastic and how great it is. And it's a marvel to watch. It's fun to watch. Like, I'll watch it every day. If you want me to watch Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 every day, I'll do it. Same with Die Hard. Like, I'll do those movies any day of the week. But that's my general opinion on the movie. Acting, not so fantastic, but passable. It's not like, it's not the worst acting I've ever seen. That's, what movie was that? That movie was Multiple Maniacs, which was a group of people who weren't actually actors. They were just friends of the director. But it's not on that level. It's not a Multiple Maniacs level of just terrible acting. It's passable acting, and it eventually will become better as we go into Terminator 2. And it's just a thrill to watch. It was a pleasure to watch. I'm happy that I can go from like something like Ollie Furi's The Soul to this. It's one reason why I'm doing this list, because there's such a variety of movie. But I give this a 9.5 out of 10. I was on the fence. I wanted to give this a 10 so badly. But Terminator 2 for me is a 10. Definitely Terminator 2 is a 10. And Terminator 2 is so much more above Terminator 1 as far as everything goes, as far as scale, as far as like graphics, as far as acting, as far as story. It's just so much better. They build off Terminator 1 so well, and they do Terminator 2 so well that I can't see myself giving both of them a 10. So 9.5 goes to Terminator 1. Thank you. I hope you will join me for my next review, which is going to be Sugarcane Alley. Oh, and by the way, this movie puts us at the halfway point of the list. So that means there's a lot of movies in the 2000s, 2010s. There's just a ton. 2010s, I think, is the most amount of movies on the list, with like 80 movies or something like that. So it's going to be a very long decade when I do that one. But we're halfway through and ready to start a new year with Sugarcane Alley. That obviously won't be started this year because I'm 15 minutes away from the new year. So I will see you guys all next year. My first review will be Sugarcane Alley. Thank you. Have a great day.